another type of data collection in Python called tuples, or some people refer to these as tuples, and either pronunciation is acceptable, tuples or tuples. So we created a list with square brackets. So I had days list equals the days of the week, each day being a string separated by commas and enclosed in square brackets. We create tuples the exact same way, but rather than square brackets, we use parentheses. So here I have days tuple equals the same values, but enclosed in parentheses. And then the values in a tuple are indexed the exact same way that a list is. So I can say print days tuple element 4, and that would give me a Thursday. Remember, we start counting with 0. So a tuple and a list are really exactly the same. Here is the one difference. You can change the values in a list. You cannot change the values in a tuple once they've been assigned. Nor can I change the tuple. I could create another tuple and add these values to that tuple, and I can combine two tuples into another third tuple, but I can't change any of the values in a tuple or expand that tuple once it's been assigned its values. A tuple then is what we call immutable. It cannot change. I can also have multi-dimensional tuples, just like we have multi-dimensional lists. So here's a two-dimensional tuple in which I have temps equals and a literal string of Phoenix and a value of 9469 is my first element, in essence the first row with 3 columns. And then Tucson 89 and 64 would be the second row, Flagstaff 67 and 40 would be the third, and Sholo 62 and 43 would be the fourth row. And the columns would be indexed 0, 1, and 2. So I could print placeholder 0 had a high temp of placeholder 1 and a low temp of placeholder 2, and I'm going to pass it then temps element 2, element 0, that'd be Flagstaff, temps 2, element 1 would be 67, and temps 2, element 2 would be 40, and the printout would be Flagstaff had a high temp of 67 and a low temp of 40. So since I can't change the values of a tuple, what's the advantage of a tuple over a list? I will say in most cases I'm going to use list over tuples, but there are some advantages. And one of those is since a tuple is immutable, there's no concern of its values being changed. I don't have to worry about making mistakes somewhere along the way where I accidentally change a value in a tuple. And that makes tuples safe since they're immutable. Particularly safe if we're doing some cybersecurity applications. And then finally, there's faster processing. Python can process or interpret a tuple quicker than it can work with a list. That's not a big deal in the types of things that we're writing in this course, but it might be a big deal if you're working with lots and lots of data and doing data analysis, and maybe each item of that data you want to specify a day of the week. You'd probably want to use a tuple rather than a list because it would process a little bit faster over several thousand iterations. So let me show you how we can change a list into a tuple and have it really not affect how things operate. So I'm going to return to that dice roll where we had dice values having names, and all I'm going to do is just simply change my square brackets to parentheses in the dice values assignment so that it now treats it as a tuple rather than a list. And I'm going to run it, and you can see it ran just fine. There was no differences in it running. Did it save any time? If it did, it'd probably be like a millisecond or something. Probably less than that, but I can run it again. And this time I get a 5 and a 5 for a total of 10. Since you can't change the value of a tuple, methods such as reverse, append, insert, remove are not valid for tuples. You can't sort a tuple since you can't change that value, but you could reference the tuple in the sorted Python method. So I can say sorted and then whatever the value of tuple is in parentheses, and using that in a for loop. If you just jumped into this video and haven't seen the prior videos to this, I invite you to check out my Python playlist of videos. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos that I create, you can click my picture up in the top right and subscribe to the channel.